I'm so happy to have you here, Julie.
Thank you, Cornelia. Thank you for having me. It's quite the honor.
So during COVID, you have witnessed a lot in your county in California, and you have also gone through a lot personally. You were severely vaccine injured by the shots. Your entire life has really been turned upside down as a consequence. And you started your own personal long march to hold the authorities, your county, the state of California, to hold the federal government, of course, as well, to hold them accountable to what happened. I want to talk to you about several things. There's so many things to talk to you about, really, and I'm just picking out the most important ones, and I hope we'll be able to cover everything in our interview. And I want to start with the work that you did at the Mass-Vaccination clinics in your county during COVID.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before we do that, I would like to set the scene a bit, because you live in a county in California, in a particular county in California called Butte County. Did I get that right? Butte, the right pronunciation? Okay.
Yep.
Butte County in California. And first of all, tell me a little bit about Butte County in California, where it is, what's it like there, how big it is, so that we get an idea where all this is happening that we're going to discuss.
Sounds great. And again, thank you so much for having me. It's important we get this information out. I've been in California most of my life. My parents I was born in Minnesota, but in 1969, they moved to Silicon Valley. My dad was a software engineer. So I really grew up in Silicon Valley and in Santa Clara County. And then I've raised my family in Alameda County. And then in 2011, I lost my husband. He died suddenly. He was a police officer. And that really changed my world, right? Obviously. And when I hit the age of 50, and in 2014, I decided to move. I needed to get out of the Bay Area. I'd been in this high-tech HR VP job. I was burned out. My husband's gone. And my kids were just about ready to be out of the house. So I'm like, I got to get out of here. So I decided to move to Chico, which is in Butte County, which is north of Sacramento. So we're right in the middle of the northern part of the state. So if you look at Sacramento to the Oregon border, we're literally smack dab in the middle, Butte County. Couple 100,000 people. Chico's the biggest city, 100,000 people. It's home to Chico State. It's home to Sierra Nevada Brewery, and it's home to Enloe Medical Center, which is one of the largest trauma 2 hospitals, private hospitals in Northern California. But Chico, my brother lived here. So he went to Chico State and kind of never left. So I knew of Chico. I had a couple people I knew. And my sister-in-law was in real estate. So she hooked me up with a realtor. And literally it took me only 3 months. It was a God decision for me to pack up and go through a house that I'd been in for 25 years and come up here to Chico, buy a house, and move my dogs up here. So me and my dogs, 2 dogs, moved up here to Chico in 2014. And at that point, I really didn't need a career for purposes of pay. So I had this large executive career. I'd lost my husband, but I didn't know this community, and I needed a purpose in life. So, get up and get out of the house kind of thing in 2014. So I started, I joined the Elks Lodge. I am a daughter of the American Revolution. I'm in that organization. So I transferred here to the Butte County chapter. And I just started becoming more aware of my community, joining obviously the Butte GOP and looking around and saying, what could I be doing in this town? Went to school board meetings, city council meetings, the whole thing. Chico's a very active community. It's a very small little kind of island within Butte County, but again, with the Chico State kind of more liberal orientation, but a lot of families that live here, it's a blend. It's a blend of the liberal versus the conservative, and they are super active. I mean, they are showing up when there's things that are wrong, whether it's homeless or whatever it is. So I quickly became an activist for my community, fighting, get this, Cornelia, syringes. So the Northern Valley Harm Reduction Coalition was this group in Chico that on Sundays would be at my local park handing out needles to the the addicted, in the theory of, we will give you clean needles, you return the dirty ones, and then we'll give you counseling, and that's, that, and the other. Well, those needles weren't getting returned. So all these dirty syringes were being found on our parks and in our waterways. So the community was pretty outraged, especially the parents. And then those of us that are more conservative, like, what are you doing in our parks handing out needles? And then there was, bad things happening at the park. The drug dealing was going on there, et cetera. So every Sunday I'm down there fighting syringes and tabling out at the park to get signatures from, parents to stop the syringes, really almost stop the shots. It was kind of bizarre, but that was 2015. So that got me really into this activism role, right? And that you can't really do when you're a full-time parent with a full-time career. So, and that actually led to us stopping the Harm Reduction Coalition from, pushing these syringes out at the parks. Literally, we got a mandate against these syringes, 2014, 2015. So again, Butte County, very rural. Our main economy besides, government is agriculture. So there's rice fields, there's almond orchards. And it's, again, very, just a really great community. People kind of band together. We've had a couple disasters that hit after I moved here. In 2017, the Oroville Dam, our largest reservoir in California, Lake Oroville, the dam was starting to fail. And it threatened to flood Oroville, which is our other biggest city here in Butte County. Literally, the sheriff one night evacuated Oroville. So half the people from Oroville, probably a town of 50,000, were heading north to Chico. The other were heading south to Sacramento. And so, we immediately engaged at the Elks Lodge to welcome all these people from Oroville that were all of a sudden in the middle of the night, leaving everything behind just in case this major flood happened from the dam. That, again, a lot of activism there. 2018... campfire. So 2018, the biggest, most deadliest fire in California, the campfire exploded, and it's right outside my front door. I'm on the ridge that's going up towards Mount Lassen, and my son texts me and go, fire? And I'm like, what do you mean a fire? And I literally opened my front door to hell on earth. Like this monster, it was early morning, this monster fire had erupted over in Paradise. It was PG&E caused, and 85 people died. It was horrible. So I'm like, oh, wow, okay. I immediately go to the hospital because one of the medical facilities in Paradise was threatened to be, burned. And so they were evacuating patients down to Enloe. So at this point, I have now, kind of added this new journey of mine, which is healthcare. And I had gotten a volunteer job at Enloe Medical Center right after I moved here, which was being part of their volunteer army. They had about 300 volunteers on a regular basis, a lot of retirees, a lot of seniors, students, this, that, and the other, who wanted the hospital experience. So you go in and volunteer, so it supplements the staff. So you're doing anything non-medical to support whatever part of the hospital, organization fits your needs. Some people worked at the cancer center. Some people worked at the gift shop. Some people worked in the emergency department. My volunteer work started on the trauma unit, the ICU unit at the main hospital. So every Thursday, I would go down to Enloe and I would sit with patients who were alone. I would do whatever the staff needed. There would be family members whose loved ones were just life flighted in from a major car crash or something, and they were in the ICU, and I would help the family. What do you need? How can I make you comfortable? I'm basically what they called a patient ambassador, a patient advocate. So as I'm doing that, right, I loved it. I think somewhere I always wanted to be a nurse, but I ended up going into business, into human resources. But so I loved that job, and it just kept expanding. I then worked in the gift shop once a week.
Actually, Julie, before you continue with that, because that's very interesting that you worked at this Enloe Medical Center. And I just want to point out the importance of this Enloe Hospital or Enloe Medical Center, as it is called, for your county, Butte County.
Yes.
Because I think you told me yesterday when we talked earlier that it is the largest employer in your county. With actually, I looked it up. I was really interested how big it actually is. And it has, so Enloe employs over 3,000 dedicated staff members across all its operations. And it has something like 260 something beds, 260 beds or
Correct.
so. So it's a pretty big hospital. And it is in fact the largest employer in Butte County, the largest employer. So it's really, driving the the economy in Chico and in the entire county, apparently.
And a lot in the
And
Northeast. And it also is,
and
um, it was built here in like 1913. So Joseph Enloe, the doctor, kind of one of these, John Bidwell Park. So he was one of these pioneers. He built the hospital in 1913. So literally, so many people here were born there. They've had their kids there. They've died there. They work there. Their families work there. There's literally very few people you run across. My neighbor works there, that you run across that aren't connected somehow, some way to Enloe. And they fund a lot of
interesting.
they fund a lot of
So
our politicians and this, that, and the other. So yeah, it's important.
exactly right. I mean, without that hospital, I don't know what would happen to
Correct.
Butte County and Chico. That
Yeah.
would be a disaster. So after I read about the importance of Enloe for Chico in Butte County, I thought, I wonder what it's like in my town. So
Yeah.
I live close to White Plains in New York, Westchester County. And White Plains has a big hospital. And I thought, well, how does my hospital compare to your hospital? Is it about the same size? I wanted to get an idea how big this is. So I think Butte County has 200,000 inhabitants, right?
Correct.
Population.
Yeah.
And Westchester County has about 1 million. So it's a much bigger
Wow.
county. White Plains is the capital of Westchester County. And there are other hospitals, so it's not the only hospital. But White Plains Hospital employs more than 5,300 people across its entire organization, and it has 292 licensed beds. So that makes something like 18 employees per bed. But of course, they also treat people in outpatient services. And that's a lot of people as well. And it turns out that just like in Butte County, in Westchester County, it's the largest employer.
It really
It's the
explains a
largest
lot.
employer in Westchester County. I was really surprised about that. I didn't know that, and I also didn't suspect it. I had no idea that this hospital employs more than 5,300 people.
Wow.
That's an enormous number of people.
Yeah.
Huge number of people. I was really rather shocked by it.
Yeah, it's a source of pride. I
So
don't know the reputation.
and now, yeah, and sorry to interrupt you, but now I'm starting to wonder, is that typical for a lot of counties? For how many counties is that actually true? I mean, we know that healthcare is driving the economy.
Yes.
It's one of the sectors where you are actually increasing jobs, or maybe even the only sector. So, yeah, just to give context to this.
No, it's really fascinating because Enloe is really a unique it's a source of pride. And so when I went to work there as a volunteer, they gave me a whole uniform, and you get a badge, and the CEO, I mean, you're treated like staff, right? They don't see you as a second-class citizen. You're an integral part of the community of Enloe with the doctors and the surgeons. And so it's a really big source of pride. I was very proud to be employed, even as a volunteer by Enloe. And again, I don't think, in the North State, I mean, there aren't very few hospitals. And this one's private, meaning now you've got a lot of these hospitals that are being absorbed by big kind of corporations, right? Like Sutter Health or Kaiser, or maybe a university system. This is one of the biggest, largest standalone private hospitals because it's got this engine, and it's got a life flight system. So we're doing a lot of search and rescues or bringing in patients from other areas on our life flight, and they land on the, on the roof. So it's an amazing operation. And I've, know the CEO, and he kind of doesn't live too far from me, and his kids go to school here. So it's not like it's definitely part of the fabric of the community. So
interesting, because I think most hospitals now belong to some sort of big conglomeration.
Yep.
And are not like standalone hospitals anymore.
Yeah, this one's got a foundation that, I mean, millions, if not billions of dollars in this, in the Enloe Foundation, because people, again, if Enloe's hospice treated them, or the cancer center, or whatever facility, they will literally give money on a regular basis to the hospital's foundation. And which funds then big treatment opportunities. We've got a big cardiovascular care system that was just purchased, and all of this because, I mean, people put Enloe in their will, right? If I die, I want this money to go to Enloe. Oh yeah.
Wow,
And
no
then,
kidding.
and then I get to
Enloe
where,
in their
yeah,
will.
there's a lot of, again, politicians in my community that sit on the board of trustees for the Enloe Foundation. So it's this really kind of definitely unique situation. And
So the politicians sit on the board of the hospital?
oh yeah.
So So it's very enmeshed, right? This hospital and the political politics
Oh,
and
most definitely. You'll see how that kind of worked with
okay,
the mass vaccination clinics. So, so as
right.
I'm deciding, okay, wow, I love this opportunity, right? I'm got this, it's amazing. And we've got this pride, and I'm working at the gift shop, working as a patient ambassador, and they asked me to join their board of directors. So again, as a Silicon Valley executive, I'd spent a lot of time in the C-suite, right, with board members and chairmen of the board and this and on startup companies and all of this. And so that was just a natural then added part of my volunteer opportunity. So I'm on the board of directors for volunteer services, and we're getting reports about, what is the health of the staff, and where does our fundraising, because our volunteers at the gift shop raised enough money to fund a lot of these big purchases, like I said, the cardiovascular care system or whatever it is. So I'm on the board of directors. So then I would participate in other things, whether it's the community fundraiser.
That's amazing in itself,
Yeah.
right? That a volunteer who's not paid, who is not a real employee, is on the board of directors
Well,
of
we've
this
got well, and
hospital.
it's
Yeah.
it's not the board for the hospital, it's the board for the volunteer services team. But again, it just tells you the
Oh, I
importance,
see. Got it.
yeah, of the volunteer services organization. And so we were that kind of immersed with the hospital. And so because we had over 300 volunteers, and so it was almost like my human resources background was really important, because we needed to make sure that we were fully staffed, or how do we attract more, because we had a student program, right? High school students that wanted to get into healthcare. We had a program for them, and all of this. So yeah, I loved it. And then here comes COVID. Okay, so now it's 2020 and COVID hits, and we're like, wow, okay, again, you just put yourself back into 2020, even though it seems like a million years ago. And all of a sudden, we were not allowed to go back into the hospital because of the fear of us getting sick and all of this. And so we found other creative ways, because now, again, the staff, especially the nurses who I adore, they were working long hours. And I'll add this other piece of this. So my daughter's a medical assistant at Sutter Health, one of the bigger conglomerates here in California. She's a medical assistant at Sutter Health in Alameda County. And during COVID, she's working at a respiratory clinic. And so she's, 6 days a week, big long shifts, extra overtime. I mean, she's exhausted, they're running out of PPE, the whole kind of thing you kind of remember hearing about. And so so here I am in 2020 trying to, make sure she's okay. I'm trying to, we're helping out our nurses and our staff by writing messages with chalk on the entrances and exits to the hospital, right? So when they walked out exhausted, they saw all of this wonderful, thank you so much, we love you, you're amazing. Or we'd have pizzas delivered to their home so they didn't have to cook. That kind of focus, attention on making sure that the staff were taken care of through this kind of crisis mode in 2020. So here I am in 2020. I'm worried about my daughter. My mom and she's in, again, Silicon Valley still, super active woman. She's walking everywhere. She eats healthy. She is just amazing Silicon Valley historian and icon. She'd worked most of her life, and she's volunteering and she plays bridge. I mean, this woman's super active. And so but I'm like, oh my God, what's this COVID thing? It's just everybody's on edge. And she's in the belly of the beast, Santa Clara County, the fear mongers of California. I mean, literally go look up Sarah Cody, Dr. Sarah Cody, the fear mongering. So we're dealing with this 2020. So here comes the vaccines. Okay, now, so here I am again. My county's pretty much locked down. Businesses are closed. My hospital's closed and overflow and cases and surges and outbreaks supposedly. And my daughter's at healthcare and a respiratory, and my mom, and I want this to be done. The kids are in masks at school. They're all of a sudden all tied up to, computers, and what is going on? So here comes the vaccines. So December of 2020, here comes
Okay, before you start with the vaccines,
Yeah.
Julie, I want to point something out.
Sure.
So you said that when COVID hit, so you had 300 volunteers at Enloe, 300, a whole army of volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
And when were you told, probably sometime in mid-March, right, that you were told, all the volunteers, you are no longer allowed to do your work. You're no longer allowed to enter the hospital, except maybe the front entrance, or tell me.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much that's it. Yeah, we don't know. So we were told not to go to the hospital, not to come to the hospital. Even a person.
What was the reason given for that? That it was too dangerous,
because again
or
of
what?
the fear of catching COVID. and getting, first of all, we were 2 weeks to
Okay,
stop the
so
spread. We were locked in
right.
our homes for 2 weeks. Yeah.
But when you think about it, that when you think about it, it's completely absurd.
Yes.
Because then they should have told the nurses the same. They should have told the doctors. I mean, if you go in there to treat people, you go in there to treat people. You have the nurses have to go in, the doctors have to go in. I don't see any reason to not let the volunteers go in the situation, because the risk is there anyway. I mean, the nurses go in, of course they have to, as always. We never stop treating people because of some sort of epidemic or
Yeah, it
pandemic.
was very
So this on
yeah.
the face of it, it really doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I agree. So my daughter, right? So they're running out of masks and PPE, and she's at a respiratory clinic, and I'm like, but they're not getting sick. These young girls, these young, medical, they're not getting sick. And I'm like, okay, so it can't be that catastrophic, kind of. Um, and I before COVID, I'm walking into MERS rooms and SARS, all these other MRSA, and I have to gown up and put on the mask and and maybe a shield and all the gown. I had to do that before COVID, and I wasn't sick. I wasn't getting attacked by any of that stuff, right? And going into the
Hmm.
rooms that had the pressure for tuberculosis, whatever that thing, that was normal. I mean, I would tell people, if I'm going to be scared of being somewhere, it's certainly not the hospital. It's the cleanest place in the county. I mean, literally, that hospital is spick and span. They are, ultra uber, concerned before COVID of the hospital. You're not getting sepsis and you're not getting all these other things because you're in a very clean facility. But they had kept Costco open. That was a more, I wouldn't go to Costco,
Yeah. Well, right. No, exactly. It doesn't make any sense. It was just to uphold this idea or this vision or this charade that there was a pandemic. And part of it, well, you needed to do dramatic things like sending home all the volunteers because it was too dangerous, allegedly, wearing masks, keeping distance to play pandemic, because otherwise people would have noticed that everything was normal. So that was the whole reason behind it. But yeah, so you were home, you couldn't do your volunteering anymore. And then for a whole year, right? Like 2020, you could
I mean,
write
it would ebbed and
chalk
flowed.
messages,
Yeah.
what heroes the doctors were or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes. And then, okay, so okay, go on. What
Yeah,
happened? The
and again,
vaccines.
this, like I mentioned the fire and the dam break, because this county and this city take these catastrophes very seriously, and we rally together. So we have emergency preparedness, and we have all this Office of the Emergency. And so we're like, oh my gosh, we all have to band together and jump in and help each other. So here comes the vaccines. And so they quickly established their first clinic at this building right around the corner from my house. And one of the big benefactors in town, Dan Gonzalez, he and Ken Grossman, who is the founder of Sierra Nevada Brewery, big brewery. I mean, pale ale, it's kind of, famous. It's here in Chico. So they donated one of their empty facilities to set up one of the first mass vaccination clinics. It quickly moved out to the fairgrounds, a big warehouse. And I'll show you pictures here in a minute. And so it was like, okay, because Enloe, again, has the big freezer. Because remember, they had to be cold storage, right? There was a super low temperature, so you couldn't just ship them straight to the pharmacies. So Enloe got the
Yeah, like
shipments to
minus
put in
40
their
degrees.
big pharmacy, or the big freezer at their local, at the pharmacy within the hospital. So the county's ordering these vaccines from the state, and then they're going right to Enloe. They could have gone to Orville Hospital too, but my focus is on Enloe. And then at the county, and maybe I'll just start sharing my screen so you can see it.
Sure.
Okay, so let's go here. Okay, so I'm going to go to my Twitter page so you can see that, okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so this is my Twitter page. I do a lot of my work. I call Twitter my tool, one of my tools. I don't do it for entertainment. I do it because it's part of my job. It's part of this working to stop the shots. It's part of my work to alert victims, etc. So Julie 4 Butte 5, you can see up here, that's my account name. So obviously Butte, and I'm in District 5. I ran for Supervisor District 5, so Julie 4 Butte 5. And this was my logo for my campaign. Obviously, I ran in 24, but this was my logo. I put it on billboards, the whole thing. So if you go to my Twitter page, so let me go down here to my highlights. So yeah, so
Yeah, I
this
can
was
see
us
it.
me going out to the clinics every day, right? At the I'll just use the fairgrounds because it's easiest to talk about. And so like I put here in my post, I worked at 36 clinics so now January we opened, right? January through June, pretty much 2021, were these big mass vaccination clinics. Obviously I had to take the shot to work there, and I raised my hand, Cornelia. I was like, yeah, please give me this shot. It wasn't because I was afraid of getting sick, because I wasn't. It was because this was what we were told to do to get our county back open, to get our kids back to school, to make sure my mom could go back to her life playing bridge and doing all these wonderful social things, and get my daughter, out of the hell she's in. So I'm like, oh yeah, give me the shot. It was mandated if you were going to work there, but I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it like my CEO is telling me this is what we need to do at the hospital. All the management in between, the county public health officer, all the county supervisors, the mayor of Chico, every government official that I trust was telling us this is what we need to do. So I'm raising my hand. Yes, I will. And I wanted to work there. I thought this was going to be, the big moment.
So, Julie, did Enloe Hospital reach out to all the 300 volunteers and ask them to work as volunteers in these mass vaccination clinics?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, the clinic was staffed with whether they were volunteers from the hospital that were already part of the Enloe program, maybe some other members of the community. Like we had some husbands that signed up of staff to work out in the parking lot, right, to direct traffic. We had retired nurses because they needed. So my job was non-clinical, meaning non-medical, right? I couldn't put a syringe in an arm. I'm not a nurse. So, but we needed a group of really solid administrative customer service focused people. And that was one of my jobs. And I'll show you the things I did. You've got the nursing staff that were actually putting the shots in the arms. And then some of them were nursing students. Some of them were retired nurses. One shift, we had an emergency room doctor that came in, right? Whoever could be all hands on deck to give as many shots as possible, right? We were focused on getting as many shots in arms as possible. And then you had a few extra people doing like the outside work, directing traffic or whatever. So, because we were doing about 200 shots an hour. And so
you said you worked in 36 of these clinics?
Yeah.
36?
Yeah.
How come?
Yeah.
Why were there so many in a relatively small place? And why?
Well, I'll show you why. So yeah, you think about it. I mean, how else are you going to mass vaccinate the community? It sounds so absurd now when I think about it. And they were
all in Butte County, these 36.
They were all in Chico.
And all in Butte County.
They were all in Chico. There were other ones going on down in Oroville, I'm sure, but I was in Chico, all in Chico.
But didn't you also have like places like CVS and other pharmacies?
Yeah, eventually, I can't remember the exact timing of when things went from, this hyper focus on a public health administered. So Butte County Public Health partners with Enloe. So these clinics were called the Butte County Public Health Community Vaccination Clinics. Enloe was really managing them. So Enloe was managing them, staffing them. Our county health officer actually left his county job to go be on contract with Enloe and manage these clinics, Dr. Andy Miller. So it was this tight partnership, private-public partnership, as they call them, Enloe and the Butte County Public Health Department working together. And you have to remember again, there was a very detailed process of giving these shots. One day we had Pfizer, one day we had Moderna. And remember again, you're not going to remember, but California, I don't know how it was in New York, but in California, there were tiers of when people could be eligible for shots. So at the very beginning, it was essential workers, so the healthcare workers, right, the teachers, and the over 75. And then the next tier opened and it became over 60, and then it became over 15, and then it became everybody kind of thing. So from January through June, we were transitioning from the first wave was, me, the old people, the healthcare workers. Then it just started to where it expanded, and we had Pfizer, we had, so we had specific days, which you'll see those, how those kind of things worked. So my first job,
Okay. Yeah, no, I just, there's so many interesting things here. You said that the batches came in every day you had a different batch, like Pfizer one day, Moderna another day.
Correct.
Tell me a little bit about how these batches, how did they come in? were they used up in a day? It's how big were they? It's hard for me to imagine all this. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so
Tell me about it.
So these first few slides were in the draw room. So one of my first jobs was working in the draw room. So again, the process of filling a syringe was just as important as the process of injecting the syringe, because again of the temperature control requirements and getting the most out of a vial. So here you can see this is the little refrigerator in the draw room. So these are boxes of
oh, sorry, but I have to ask you
Yeah.
this. So you had 36 clinics.
Mhm.
That means that every one of these 36 clinics needed to have one of these super freezers that went all the way down to minus 40 degrees.
Well, again,
correct?
so the way it would work, so Enloe at the main hospital had the super freezer. So what they would do is for the clinic that day, they would bring over out of the deep freezer into this more normal temperature kind of refrigerator that you see here on the screen. So once it was
which
in
temperature
here,
did this refrigerator reach?
oh, I can't even remember to be honest with you. And see, then
I mean, but did it go down to minus
No.
40 or not?
No, it was more like you
No,
what you have in your house.
Okay.
Because again,
okay.
yeah.
So they were warming up in this
Correct.
more
Yeah,
normal
because
freezer
they were going
thing.
from
They
kind
were
of
warming up to some
You're exactly right, because they were going from pretty much
minus.
think of it like being frozen to being in the refrigerator in your house to then we had to take it out to get to room temperature before it was injected in your arm. By the time the syringe gets injected into your arm, it has to be room temperature. And then it can't be too hot or it'll break down. So this is
okay. That's also interesting. So it has to be brought down to room temperature, but then it can't stay at room temperature for like 24 hours or something like
there's
that.
very
When does it start breaking down after how much time?
if you look at this so again, this was a poster they made that they put on the wall in the draw room, and I took a picture because I found it fascinating. So you can see here at the top, thaw each vial before use, right? And so you can either
Does it say how long that takes?
Yeah, so it says 2 hours and 30 minutes in the refrigerator or 1 hour at room temperature. And then once it's thawed, there's a shelf life. So if you've got an unpunctured vial, so we got our vials fully diluted. So you could pull 10 shots, 10 syringes per vial. Some clinics, not ours, had to dilute the product first and then do the draw. Ours came, this vial had 10 shots ready to go. You had to pull out 10 shots into the syringe, and we wanted to make sure it was very precise. How, you didn't want to just be doing this really super fast. It was very precise to get 10 out of this one precious vial of, God forbid, poison. But anyway.
Right.
So you can see unpunctured vial.
Right, but before we go there, I want to go back to this to the amount of time it takes to thaw them.
Yeah.
So in this little freezer, it's 2 point, what was it? I can't read it. It's 2.5 hours in the little freezer.
2 hours and 30 minutes in the refrigerator.
Okay, and 1 hour at room temperature would be the appropriate time. Okay, but in most cases, I would imagine it wasn't exactly 2.5 hours or exactly. It would probably have been longer than that, correct?
Yeah, I mean, again, this whole thing was so fascinating to me. So I will give it the nurse manager. I'm not going to say her name, but the nurse manager that was in the draw room. We put this draw room in a really separate corner of the facility where it was quiet and it wasn't a lot of chaos. So you can imagine in this warehouse that I'll show you where people of 200 an hour are lining up and getting registered and sitting down and all this, it's chaotic. So the draw room was in a very quiet piece so that the nurses could be very controlled and because you had to get the bubbles out of the syringe. So they were making sure they were looking at, okay, we've got 10. And so as they were drawn out, they were put, and this is what I would do. They would hand me, as they were drawing them, these trays. And I always call these like I felt like trays of cookies coming out of the oven, right? So here's 10 syringes now filled, ready for me to walk across the aisle to the room where they were actually doing the injections.
Right. With hindsight, you probably would have wanted to get a shot from a syringe or from a vial that had been standing around for a good long time, so that this toxic stuff inside was
Corda, you
starting to
think just like me.
degrade and be
That's so funny.
right.
Well,
Because that's the last thing you wanted, to get one that was just 2.5 hours in this kind of normal. It sounds
I
like a
don't know.
normal
Do
fridge
you
or
want
normal
one that's
freezer to me.
frozen? Do you want one that's
Or
not? I mean, I
you don't. Yes, you want one that has been sitting around for like a month. But so I mean, I mean, it's impossible to do it exactly after 2.5 hours in this freezer thing, or exactly after 1 hour. I mean, there must have been wide discrepancies between how long they had been standing around. And I mean, I don't know, and you probably don't know either, how these so-called vaccines, this toxic stuff in there started to degrade, but probably pretty quickly,
Yeah,
hopefully.
it is fascinating how, I think it explains when people go, well, how come I took a shot and didn't get injured? Well, maybe you got one that had stood out for 8 hours. I don't know.
Exactly. Because there is no way they make it so precise. 2.5 hours in there, and it's ready to be used.
Yeah.
Did you get any information about when you had to discard a syringe because it had been out at room temperature for too long?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably on that poster somewhere, but I will tell you. So when I got my shot, so this is kind of how my process was getting my vaccine was. So I got it in the left arm, right? They say you use the opposite arm from your dominant arm. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
right-handed, put in the left arm. So that night when I go home, I mean, you're supposed to keep rubbing it and all this, and shot stays in arm, and it did. I mean, it was a huge knot on my left side, and it lasted like a week. I mean, I was taking the ibuprofen I'm like, what is? It felt like something wasn't right. Why? Now, people were focused on it. Didn't stay in the arm. I'm like, it stayed in my arm really long. It was this huge knot, and I thought to myself, I don't think the lady did it right. Maybe she didn't put it in the right place in the arm, because they had again, the injection process, right? It was like they were using fingers, like it had to be up here on the deltoid with 2 fingers, put it right here. And I'm like, I don't think that lady knew what she was doing, because they're volunteers and they're student, whatever. And I'm like, let me switch arms. So when I go back, so January of 2021, I get that first shot of Moderna. That's all that was available for that period of time, was the Moderna. And then the second shot, I go back in. Now, at this point, I've been working enough with these people. Oh, I can tell which nurse I think is doing a better job than others, kind of thing. Because I'm watching 200 shots an hour, and I'm seeing who is doing it too quickly or having failures and this, that, and the other. So I go to this one friend of mine who, and I go, can you do my second shot today, which was February 2021. And I use my right arm. Okay, let me do the dominant arm. I literally, Cornelia, had no knot at all. And I thought, good, yay, it worked better. But now I know that shot is the one
Did your
that
arm
caused.
hurt? Did
Yeah.
the arm hurt? Julie, did your arm hurt?
My left arm, when the first shot got, really hurt. And I mean, I've had flu shots,
Okay.
and I mean, I'm like, I literally, it hurt so bad, and it was so long that I thought it was not done right. Or now I should think maybe it was too cold or too hot.
And on the right side, did the arm hurt there
No,
too?
not at all. So I had no knot, no nothing, no soreness. And I thought, okay, good, that worked. But now I know it ran straight through my body. It should have stayed in the arm. It literally ran, because immediately that night and the next day I have brain fog, which is one of these common side effects that you hear about. And it's not a senior moment, brain fog. It's not I forgot something in the kitchen thing. It is, you're sitting in your room going, I'm not of sound mind. I'm like, something is off. And now I know that second shot did not stay in my arm like they said it should. It ran right to my vagus nerve, and it landed a lesion on my right basal ganglia. And I know this because when I have something like this brain fog that's so unusual, and I did not even think about it being the vaccine. I literally didn't. I just thought, God, what's going on? Something's wrong. And I went to see a neurologist in early March 2021, and go to the lab, get the CT scans. And by the time I get the results back, and I'm sitting with this neurologist in Chico, he's showing me a brain scan with a lesion, and it's called microangiopathy, meaning capillaries have been impacted by something. Now I know it was impacted by the vaccine, leaving my arm straight to my vagus nerve and up to my brain. Literally, that second shot was my one that caused the most damage. So I have a lesion on my brain that this neurologist is telling me, you're lucky you didn't have a stroke. You're lucky we got to watch it to make sure doesn't turn into a blood clot. But never in that period am I ever even thinking, because I'm still stuck in the safe and effective matrix, right? I'm still stuck in this.
And the neurologist also didn't suggest that it might have
No,
anything to
I've
do
talked
with
to him
the
since then, so
vaccines,
that's a
right?
different
Right.
conversation. But yeah, no, he had no clue and didn't say anything. And so, and I said, is there anything I can do about it? Take medicine, or no, there's nothing you can do. Just watch it and we'll make sure that it does. I had to go back for a second CT scan, and it's still there, but luckily it hasn't kind of grown into a brain tumor yet. So
Yeah, you know what's interesting?
yeah.
I mean, so it happened, the brain fog happened right the next day. So there's a time correlation between the second shot and your brain fog. And then the lesion, apparently, that was causing the brain fog.
Correct.
Apparently. What's interesting about this is that Dr. McCullough always says that, he always asks his patients, when you got the COVID shot, did your arm hurt? And when it doesn't, and when they say, no, it didn't really hurt, and they said, oh, this is good, then it was probably, I don't know, maybe it was a dud, or they had been sitting around for too long, and the toxic brew had already started to disintegrate. But from your experience, it's just the opposite. Your arm didn't hurt, your right arm didn't hurt, and you had the effect of the brain fog and then the lesion very, very soon after. Now, that might also have been caused by the first shot, of course, and just by coincidence,
it's like a drug
it happened
overdose,
the
right?
day after your second shot.
Yeah.
Who knows? But it's still interesting to hear that.
Yeah.
And also shows how damn little we know about any of this.
It's really crazy. Yeah. Why did it, it took a whole year for me to get all the information. But so now, you're looking at the clinic. So this is the warehouse in Chico where I went for every shift. So my job when I got there.
Can we go back before we go there? Can we go back to the drawer room for a second?
Yeah.
Show me the picture of the drawer room again, because you said it was in a faraway corner where it was quiet and people had actually the ability to focus on what they were doing. So they would take. What are these boxes in there? They're that I see in the fridge.
Those
are how many? Yeah.
So those are boxes of Moderna. This is a Moderna day. So those were boxes of Moderna, and inside were the vials. So there were 10 vials to a box and 10 shots per vial. So there's 100 shots in each one of those.
And on the box, it would say the batch number. I'm
not sure if it probably is on the box, but it's definitely on the vial.
Okay. So each vial would have the batch number. Did you get an idea on how many different batches you got per day?
You're so funny. So you're jumping right ahead of me. So, and see this picture here in the drawer room, you can see there's sun coming in. So I'm sitting by a window because again, so they were making sure there was enough proper lighting so they could look at the syringe and make sure that the bubbles were out. But yeah, so let me take you back out here to the clinic. So that was I worked at the testing clinics too. So right here. Okay, so this is the whiteboard. So this is the whiteboard that really was right in front of me at my corner in the warehouse. So every shift, this whiteboard was kind of the intel for the day. So you can see here, lot number for this day was 038B21A. It's Moderna. And again, the Moderna syringes were filled with more than the Pfizer syringes. So you see the 0.5 milliliters. You can see that we had 710 doses of this one to give. There's a reminder that there's a 1-inch needle, which was the normal needle. If the person was overweight and had more fat, we needed to get the injection into the muscle. And so there was a longer needle. We called it the fat needle. So part of my job was, as a patient was coming up to sit down in one of those chairs, I could see, okay, they're fat. I need to go get a fat needle because we didn't have as many of those filled normally as the regular needles. So this is kind of all the intelligence for the day. So this day was April 26, 2021. And you can see these tick marks for then how many doses or, how many people. So 10, 20, 30, so 50, there's 5, 10, 15, 20, 28. Or let me think about this. So there were 10, 50, 100, 150. Yes, almost 240 this hour here. And then so from 9 to 10 in the morning, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, then we took lunch, and then it was the afternoon. So they were very,
Wait, that is such a primitive system. I mean, are you telling me that who went to the dashboard to put a mark down there?
The nurse manager.
I mean,
yeah. So the lady was that was.
so wait. So one little line means one person vaccinated, or what?
10. So this is
one little line means 10 people. So it's very confusing because these are Roman numerals, right?
well, it's tick.
But it's
I
all
don't know if you
multiplied by 10.
It's tick marks. So 10, 20, 30, 40. So 50. So this is I don't know what.
Oh, right. It's not. Yes. Okay. Yeah. But very similar to Roman numerals.
Kind of.
Except
Yeah.
that the 50 actually means 500. What? So the 5 means 50 instead of.
Yeah, but
5.
so tick marks. I don't know where the tick marks history comes from, but one tick mark is typically 10 in however you're keeping track of tick marks. Yeah, it's probably back to some.
That is so crazy. How did this nurse? What a supervisor nurse? Wait a minute. How many? So you were supposed to give 710 doses that day. You knew that.
Well,
somehow
of this
you
batch
had 710 doses
of this batch number. So now, because somewhere along the line during this day, now most of the time it was one batch number per day or 2 days, because depending on, again, to your question of how many doses that get administered and from one batch, it varies, right? Because it was varied. The one thing that was the for sure was that we would have one lot number. We would administer every dose of this lot number. So to that day it was 710. And then everybody would stop what they were doing in that clinic, make sure that every single syringe of 038B21A was done in an arm and accounted for. This whole thing gets erased, this lot number, and a brand new lot starts to be rolled out of the draw room and used for the rest of the day. So you can see, so these tick marks, so let's see, this is 50, 100, 150, 200, and I put my glasses on, 240 that first hour. Yeah, 240 that first hour of this lot number. And then, 50, 100, 150, 170. So this is keeping track. Now, this
productivity went down in the second hour.
Or, yeah, well, you got to remember people were going to work, right? So people, give me the first shift. Give me in at 9 to 10 and I'm going to work.
So the people who came, did they have to make appointments so that you knew exactly how many people you would inject
definitely,
on
because,
a given day?
Again, remember, in California, in California, it was very tightly. Like if you were 50 and you wanted to get your shot, but it was a 65 and above tier, no, we wouldn't let you in. Believe me, we had people.
Okay, so all the people who lined up had appointments. They had a certain appointment for a certain time, and you knew exactly how many people were going to come in that day.
Yeah.
Okay. And then for whatever reason, this nurse would, I don't even know how they collected. 710 people. How many people got injected at this particular clinic on a given day?
So, and again, so if you look over here to the right, you can see the daily counts for April 1st, there were 1,746. April 9th, 1,183. April 6th, 984. So if you add all these up and then divided by
Wow, so that was put down on the blackboard as well. So it was like 1,200 or so. 1,000. The first one is 1,600.
1,746, 1,183.
700. Wow.
Yeah.
And that was just one of the clinics.
It was the biggest one. It was the Mass-Vaccination clinic. They weren't doing them as big down in any other part of the county. I'm sure that they were doing something down in Oroville, which is the southern part of the county, at that hospital. But this was the Mass-Vaccination clinic. This one was we'll see this, Sierra Nevada Brewery, again, they gave $1 million to fund vaccinations in Butte County. So the amount of money that, and again, I think there's a whole opportunity here for fraud. Talking about California fraud, in addition to the there was over $5 million that the county got from the state for immunization assistance, over $5 million early in 2021 and then another 2023. Sierra Nevada Brewery gave $1 million because they wanted to mass vaccinate, Chico. We got to get the brewery back open. So $1 million came in from them. Mm-hmm. And then Becerra comes in 2022 and gives us $225,000 to go find the little kids, right? That's the Becerra project. So Yeah, this whole process, at the very beginning, I'll tell you this, Cornelia, too. So at the very, very beginning, before we moved out here to the fairgrounds, we were in a smaller facility and everything was manual because there wasn't a system. I mean, nobody did mass vaccination before. So there was no system. So when I went in for my shots, there was a 2-part form, very simple 2-part Enloe form, name, social security number, birth date. And then there was a space for for me to write down for me or my patient. God, I almost said victim. The lot number, right arm or left arm, and the time, and then the person signed it, and then we'd rip it apart, right? Here's the original, and then here's your copy, sir. Now go, they got their shot and they got their vaccine card and they went to sit down for 15 minutes to make sure they didn't faint. So as I'm tearing off and getting these stacks of forms that were I would give them to the administrative room. So there was a whole nother room for administration. And one day I went in there and I'm like, there's literally somebody on the computer. Oops, I'm typing on my computer. On the computer, data entering in every single one of those forms into this computer database, right? And I'm like, so you're hand entering in my information for my shot. And then this is Butte County. So that gets transferred to the state, that gets transferred to the federal government. So think about, and I ran HR systems for my career. So I'm thinking, wow, the opportunity for error, because they were trying to get them entered in quickly. Because remember, 2021, Joe Biden is yelling and screaming, pandemic of the unvaccinated, only X percent are, and my county, every meeting, we only have 30% vaccinated. What do we do about it? I'm like, first of all, that's obnoxious. Second of all, how do you know? I went to the state to look up my vaccine information and one of my shots was missing. Somebody just missed it, right? It's all manual. And I'm like,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, there was a lot of information there. So can you make this infamous whiteboard big again?
Yeah, this whiteboard is like the most fascinating part of the whole thing.
Okay. So let's go back to this whole question of how were these shots registered. So we see that they were registered here on this whiteboard with a black line that stood for 10 people. And you're telling me that when you got your shot, there was somebody typing in for every single person who got the shot, who typing in all the information, the batch number, etc., and sending it to
so let me show you
database,
to
the state database.
Right. So again, at the very beginning of these mass vaccination clinics, whether they started in December, in our case, January, February, before things were really getting done at the state, everything was manual. Hard copy forms, which, by the way, did not have informed consent. It didn't have all of them, so I can verify there was no informed consent. But who cares? We were like, hurry, hurry, hurry.
Yeah, well, there is no informed consent for emergency authorized
true that
medical countermeasures.
So you get this, and everything's being data entered. Eventually, the state gives us these little laptop, this blue kind of laptop.
Looks like a tablet.
A tablet. Thank you.
Small laptop.
So this is one. So each shift, when the nurse would come in, she would get this tablet. Now the tablet was then where she was recording. So we no longer had the hard copy form. So eventually the systems got more automated. But there was the reason why, and then just really quick while we're on the slide. So I was preparing these little syringe kits. So this is we had all these plastic trays. So at the beginning of every shift, I would get a big old stack of these trays and I'd put in a gauze. The syringe would come out of the drawer room. There's a Band-Aid, and an alcohol wipe. So it could be a very streamlined, automated process because we didn't want people standing in line for a long time. I mean, there was times when it was raining and cold and hot, whatever. So we wanted to make it super simple. So the minute that a person came to a chair, that nurse was ready to go. She was able to wipe their arm, put the shot in the arm, clean it up with the gauze, put a Band-Aid on, and boom, the person's on their way.
No, it's like having people on the conveyor belt.
100% it was a mass vaccination process. So,
but let's go back to the tablet. So you said they got this tablet. So how did they? So they entered the batch number,
which is why it's so big on the whiteboard, because everybody in that warehouse had to be able to see it. So they had to make sure, because on this tablet, they were.
Wait. Are you saying that they had to type it into the tablet for
I'm
every
not sure if
single
they had to
person?
type
There
it or if it was
wasn't
a
a
drop
pre-filled.
down. They might have had to type it in. So they had to, find the person's information and input, whatever, right arm, left arm, make sure. And again, there were times when, the person would come in for their second shot and the nurse would be looking on the tablet and she should be able to see their first shot, right? Here's the first shot. Because make sure you were
Yes.
3 weeks apart. You're not there too early, whatever. Make sure that you got Moderna to get them a second shot Moderna because that, whatever, at that point it was important. So anyway, that's why this intel here was very important to make sure that what was entered on that tablet was accurate. But there were times when the nurse would go, I don't see your information in here for your first shot. And the guy would be sitting there like, well, I got it. And then they'd have to go to a computer area and try to triage, well, what happened to fix that? That's just normal, system kind of management. But yeah.
Okay, so in this tablet, so the nurse would enter the name of the person, first name and last name, probably date of birth, maybe, I don't know, social security number. I mean, to keep people apart. What was entered? What
I'm not,
information
to
was
be
entered,
honest,
and where?
Yeah, I don't really know.
And where was it sent? Where did this go? To the state of California?
Correct. California Department of Public Health.
The HHS.
Yeah.
So does that mean that the California Department of Public Health had or has a database that shows them exactly which person, by name, which person received which vaccines from which batch at what times?
Correct. And there's actually
plus possible boosters.
Yes, and so and actually there's an immunization registry in California, especially because we're vaccine obsessed here now. So they're hyper focused on kids. But so CAIR, CAIR, the California Immunization Registry. So that's where, and it's a digital record. So you can go online to California Department of Public Health, look up the immunization registry, and find your information about your vaccinations. Should be any of them that you get, whether it's MMR, tetanus, whatever, it should be in the registry. It's a little scary because it's a digital ID. It's a digital record, right? And people are,
so how do you log into this thing? You just have a login and a password and you get in there? And
it's a pretty, you go into it, because again, I had to do this because my second shot's nowhere to be found. And now again, you got to remember this 2021 period. You have to show your vaccine card if you want to go into San Francisco and go to the museum, right? Maybe. So number one, that vaccination card that I had, I number one had a copy of it on my phone, and I kept copies in certain places, and then I put that card because I knew if I lost that card, chances of me getting another one from this whole crazy administrative hell was going to be more difficult. And what if I wanted to go to a Giants game or a Sharks game in San Francisco? I don't know. So this whole weirdness about the vaccination.
Julie, I'm sure they happily would have vaccinated you again, just in case. They are so great. Why not give you a couple more?
Yeah, double, triple. So I went online to this digital ID process. So as I go through and I put in my name, I think I put in my social security number, my birth date. And it's like, yeah, you have, one. I'm like, one? No, I have two. And now in order to access that, I have to show like my photo ID and get into this digital cage, right? And I'm like, oh, back out. I don't want to be in here. Immediately red alert kind of thing. You listen to, Catherine. I mean, it's craziness. But yeah, California's got it all pretty digitally set up for a digital ID verification process. I will tell you that. So.
And do you know if California then takes all that data and sends it on to HHS or CDC or?
That's my assumption.
Where does that data go?
Yeah, because again, so 2021 for me, that summer, I'm a political junkie. So I'm into all of obviously I'm a big political kind of person. And so I'm watching all this Afghanistan nonsense, right? We're getting out of Afghanistan with these big planes and all this craziness and Joe Biden yelling at us. I'm like, God, this is seriously, something's wrong. And they would be quoting the national vaccination rates. Okay, well, where are they getting them? Like he would go, we only have 50. I don't know. He was yelling at us all the time, right? Or the Burks or whoever, right? It was like, we only have so many percentage of people vaccinated. We need to increase that. Well, how do you do that, sir? So I'm like, okay, well, you must be getting it from the state. And now every state has a different system. Every county has a different system. I'm like, wow, there's no way your numbers can be even close to being right, sir. Stop yelling at us, right? And I'm like, I'm proof because only one of my vaccines is in the system. So clearly you missed one of mine. How many more did you miss? So somehow the information's going, and half of it's manual, half of it's now in a tablet. What does Nevada do? What does Wyoming do? I don't know. What does New York do? And then they get it at the state, and the states, again, our state health director's yelling at us, and then it all goes to the government, and you're like, okay, I doubt these systems are anywhere near accurate, but okay, sure. Pandemic of the unvaccinated.
Yeah, but okay, but so apparently, but the data went somehow from the state to the federal government, to some HHS agency, and were collected there. If they tell us the truth about the vaccination rates, if it's really 80% or lower, who knows?
Yep.
I don't trust them at all.
Well, and then it goes to the WHO. The WHO is tracking all the vaccination rates. So it's just,
Oh, interesting. Oh, it goes to the WHO as well. Okay, so the federal government has information about how many people were vaccinated. I'm wondering if they even have all the way down to the names, because it seems like the names, what happened to the names? Does the state of California know which people received these? Or
for
are
sure
the names
the state
at
of
some point
California knows.
stripped from...
Again, I've gone into my digital record to see, and there's my name and there's my information.
Well, yeah, of course. Well, yeah, sure, you're right. What a stupid question. Of course they know. So the question then is, do they send that on? Do they send it on with the names attached to the federal government, or not? But in any case, so the federal government has that information.
Secretary Kennedy, can you please tell us what's going on?
Yes. So they have more or less precise data about who was vaccinated, where, the ages, everything, and which means that if they wanted to, if there were the will to do this, they could take that data and then match it with the mortality data that they also have, and have a look, and they can do this really fine-grained, down to the week, etc. All sorts of stuff. They can do just Butte County, for example, and look at how many people got the vaccines and who got these vaccines. Or certainly the state of California could do this. The state of California could say, okay, I want to know how many people died in Butte County after getting the shots. What is the time correlation there? And how did the death rates increase in Butte County in the year of 2021?
Yep.
So they have all the data. They could do that, and easily, because this is not something that would be difficult to do.
Yeah, no, and then you add the case rates, and so the deaths from the virus. So, you think just like me. I love you. So, here I'm in Butte County now. One of the reasons why Becerra comes to Chico, which we talk about a little bit, is we were vaccine hesitant. We had the lowest children's vaccination rate in the entire state per Javier Becerra.
What was it? What
was like 18%.
And when was that?
Yeah, and overall it was 54%. So of all of Butte County,
oh, that's low.
Yeah, only 54%. So, and then a lot of people dropped. Like, I didn't take the boosters, and so the number of people that. So
was that, Julie? Was that at the end of 2021 that you had 18% kids, 54% adults?
So it was when Becerra came to Chico in March of 2022.
Oh, that was then. Okay. But before we go there, because that's another whole story and a fascinating one.
Really quick, let me tell you. So here I am. So we know that the maximum amount of people in Butte County is 54.6%. It's on every government or state website, right?
That's very low, but good for you.
Oh, because people were screaming at the county, which I wish I would have listened to them, but I didn't know. But yeah, so 54%. Now so then I look at our virus rate and because that again is they track the number of cases and deaths by the virus. They don't track the number of injured and deaths by the vaccine, but they do it by the virus. And we're pretty low, right? Our numbers were low. I can't remember them off the top of my head. I looked at Santa Clara County where my mom lived. They're 80, maybe 90% vaccinated. I want to say they're like 95% back. They're one of the highest vaccinated counties in the state because they were full court press in terms of you have to have a booster to go to the Sharks game. You have to have a booster if you're a City of San Jose employee. You have to, and they were full court press. They were doing, okay, we're having our Super Bowl this Sunday in Santa Clara. They were doing vaccinations at Levi Stadium by my mom's house. So they were.
Are you kidding?
No,
You
I'm
mean
not.
but wait. They were doing them at the stadium, but then letting them in, or did they have to wait?
I mean, the
because usually you
absurdity,
have.
this brand new 49er stadium. But my point is, and so if you look at the death rate by the virus and the case rate for Santa Clara County versus Butte County, Santa Clara County's like double. I'm like, the program's not working. How is it that we're 54% vaccinated and our death rates and our case rates are lower, and you're mass vaccinating and your case rates and your death rates by this quote unquote virus are through the roof? This is something wrong. So
Right, absolutely. So
Yeah.
very interesting. So you were probably breaking the national record of vaccine hesitancy with this very low number of 54.
Correct.
Congratulations, well
Thank
done.
you. Thank you.
But let's go back. Let's go back to this infamous whiteboard, which is truly fascinating. I'm sure
I took a picture
lots
of it. I thought
at
this time I thought the same thing.
Gosh, I'm so glad you did. So there we are. There's the whiteboard. We have the lot number. So I wanted to ask you about the batches.
Yeah.
You said that so here you got this batch, and the batch had to be used up before you started on a new batch.
Right.
So this batch here, that's pretty small. It's 710 doses of this batch.
For that day.
For that day. And then when you started a new batch, would it always be a different batch, or could
Correct.
it be a fresh batch with the same number?
No, it would be a completely different lot number. And in fact, I'm just looking up. So I did a FOIA request. So this is 038.
Well, wait. What's the difference between lot number and batch number? That's the same, right?
It's just terminology.
It's just terminology.
Yeah.
Because batches are usually big. I mean, a small batch is something like 100,000 doses.
Yeah, I mean, I call them
right?
lot numbers. So you can
Or
see
maybe,
at the top here, they're called lot numbers. But on the box, it says lot number. But when I first learned that I was vaccine injured, it was howbadismybatch.com. And I'm like, okay, so it's batch. But it's the same thing.
Okay, so did you learn when you worked there in these mass vaccination clinics, did you learn anything about the size of these lots of batches?
At this point in time, no.
And why there are such big differences between the sizes of them?
I can only speculate. I mean, that's Sasha Lachpova, our friend Sasha. She's done all this work. There was no rhyme or reason. So when I knew this lot number was obviously once I go to howbadismybatch.com after I figure out I'm injured and I see that there's, I don't know how many, 45 people dead. And I'm like, what is going on? I start and I have to quit my job, that whole thing. And now I'm literally starting to beat the drum with the county. I did a FOIA request and I got all the batch numbers for the doses administered. Like literally a big, huge Excel file of every lot number by doses administered in the county. So I will tell you that this 038B21A on this list from the county, 1,777 total were administered. So on this day when we did 710, probably the day before or the day after were the other 1,000. So there's of this batch number in total, 1,777. Of the one that injured me, the 042L20A, it's like top of the list. It's 042L20A, 12,016 doses administered. Now, why is that variability? That gets you back to the whole manufacturing shenanigans of, Moderna manufactures this batch of 038B21A and it gets dispersed across the country. So it's not like everything came to California and everything went to Butte County. You could really go, hey, this 038B21A caused some harm. Moderna, we're going to hold you. No, there's 038B21A all over the country of various amounts. And I don't know who decided that.
So this is so telling. So you're saying, and I think that makes complete sense, that they broke up the lots and they were big. They didn't just say, okay, we have this lot, let's send the whole thing to Westchester County with 1 million people. They can use up the entire big 100,000 shot or portion lot. No, they said, no. We're going to break that up into, 20, 40, 50 different batches, maybe even more, and send them all across. We sent them everywhere so that if there is a really toxic lot, people will not notice it, or at least it will take several years before they really catch on to what's going on.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
So because the whole thing is weird. If I have a lot, it would be, I think, if I am an administrator of such a of such an operation, I would say, okay, let's take this entire lot and send it to New York City. I wouldn't start breaking it up. Why would I do that? It's additional work. It makes it more complicated. I would not do that.
Yeah.
So that they did that persistently, consistently, and everywhere with every single lot means that there was a method behind it, there was attention behind it, and they had to hide something. They wanted to hide the harm.
Yeah.
They wanted to hide the deaths.
Yeah, and there was only one time when things, again, because like I told you at the, when you're giving shots at the Santa Clara County, Levi Stadium, there's a lot of people there that day. And there was one mass vaccination clinic in San Diego that had a Moderna lot, was trying to find the number, that they all of a sudden had a bunch of people having immediate like anaphylaxis or some kind of allergic reaction right there at the clinics. Like it was, people were having these fainting, whatever they were having. And so Moderna and the state of California had to issue this, hey, we're pausing this one, almost like a recall. This lot, I want to say it was 04. I've got it somewhere. There's a big problem with this lot. Now it kind of went under the radar because nobody really was, they're still so hyper-focused, but there was one lot of Moderna in California that kind of got recalled. And it's part of my whistleblower, evidence to get Butte County kind of criminally charged. There were over 500 doses of that one lot administered, put in people's arms, and the county never said a damn word. They never notified those people because, again, I know that they know who exactly got that Moderna recalled lot. They know their name, they know their address, they know where they are in this, county. Why did you not send them a letter like you would if, you sold them a bad, can of chili at the grocery store, whatever. We had no notice. Mm-hmm. Some counties did put, information on their website, their Facebook page. Hey, if you Moderna had a recalled lot, not a word out of Butte County. And so when I got this report, this is why this report is so important, because it shows and it proves that, hey, there's, whether it's fraud, malfeasance, willful neglect, whatever, I think completely incompetence at our Butte County Public Health Department. They didn't notify people. Really? That lot number was paused and recalled by Moderna in the state of California, and you did not go notify these 500 people. That should be a crime.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah.
So, these were the 500 people who got that lot in Butte County,
yep.
Correct?
Yep.
And they were not, and after it was recalled, they were not notified
Correct.
by the county. Do you know why?
I think they're all criminals. So, but I think they're just highly incompetent. I think they are, I was going back last night looking at some of the videos, because again, I've been at Butte County 47 times, at that county, at the podium, demanding they stop administration, demanding they put information on their website, showing up with eye patches after my eye surgery, crying at times, right? Telling them they're killing kids, the whole thing. And, number one, they've taken over $5 million from the state to do this. Now, are there terms in those contracts that say you have to pay it back? I don't care. Whatever. You took $5 million to do this. Is it your reputation? These public health officials really think they are above everybody else's level of intelligence, even above medical doctor. These public health business kind of people. I mean, our county director, she didn't even know how to pronounce certain medical terms. We're like, you should not even be in this job. I mean, so I think it was, no. Should they have gone and note after I brought this to their attention in a public meeting, this lot number was recalled. They should have done it then, but no.
Well, yeah, right. But they probably already knew about it, don't you think? I mean,
they should be fired. Somebody should be fired.
Shocking.
Yeah. Anyway,
what I find so remarkable about this is that this is a predominantly Republican county, and they still didn't send the letters to the 500 people.
Yeah. No, this county, like we talked about at the beginning, it's Enloe. So the Enloe, the medical establishment, the number of employers that are wrapped around Enloe that are supplementary to Enloe, you don't go up and you don't question them, and you don't even want to. It's really troubling. So I find that the conservatives tend to be more. I mean, the liberals are out there like proud of it, wearing their masks and all this, but the so-called, we're for freedom and limited government, but you're keeping this reign of terror on the county, and you're conservative. But again, I could track each one of my supervisors, their wives working at a medical facility. They're getting money from Pfizer. My state assemblyman, conservative, GOP. He's now running for Congress. Took money from Pfizer, $1,500. And I'm like,
Well,
why did you do that, sir? Give it back.
I'm not the least bit surprised. When did this happen, this recall?
So we'd have to go look it up, Cornelia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So they had to recall this particular batch because it was obvious, because it was too obvious.
Correct.
But breaking up all the lots and just bundling them into smaller bundles and then sending them in any which direction, that is so incriminating.
Yep.
But they did that from the very beginning. If I'm
100% they did.
Correct,
yeah.
right? So if they did that from the very beginning, then it stands to reason that they knew about the adverse effects, the carnage that this would cause.
I don't know where in the pipeline, like so state of California, and I know this was the way it worked for monkeypox. So the monkeypox shot. So the state of California, I'm assuming, got all the inventory from Moderna and Pfizer and J&J, and then they distributed, decided how much and what lots or whatever product was going to go to what county. So now I don't know did Enloe order these COVID shots directly from Moderna and Pfizer? No, I think they got them all from the state of California. And I know that because of the monkeypox process, because the monkeypox shots, when they came to California, it's just so absurd. But our county director is updating us at the county saying, okay, we've got this monkeypox alert and the monkeypox vaccines are coming in, and Butte County's going to get, I'm just going to throw this number out, but it's not, we're going to get 10 doses. I mean, and it was like, so they were, and my public one of my supervisors are like, how are we going to decide who in our LGBTQ community, who gets it first? They were so hyper-focused on this number. So the state for that monkeypox vaccine was the one that got those doses and decided, well, let's look at Chico. We've got probably a higher percentage of LGBTQ community members versus Glenn County. So Glenn County, next to me, where my grandchildren live, extremely rural, very small, they got no monkeypox doses. There was one day when our public health director said, I just sent a dose of the monkeypox vaccine over to Glenn County. So again, this process of, vaccines for emergency use, the state's controlling it. So does the CDC get involved in that? Or I don't know, but the state of California Department of Public Health controls the inventory and then disperses it to the counties. So again, the complexity and how did they decide Butte County got X number of COVID J&J shots? And I don't know,
Well, lucky Glenn County got only one monkeypox.
Only one monkeypox.
That's great. But yes, but so where did California get the shots from? Do you know?
Yeah,
because this whole thing was a military operation.
Correct.
And I was wondering, you were working at these Mass-Vaccination clinics. Did you have any kind of contact, or did you see anything about a connection to the military?
No, never. Nope.
Right.
It was all public health.
When you were working there, you had no idea that this was actually a military operation, that the military was involved in it.
Oh, none at all. That was one of those
distribution and transport and God knows what else.
Correct. Yeah. No, not at all. I mean,
okay.
The most our military was involved is when we were setting up the overflow clinic, right? Oh my gosh, we've got to set up, in case we have a whole lot of sick people, we need to open up our I think they took one of the rehab Enloe facilities, and the National Guard was coming in to set up cots. Like, the fear mongering was unbelievable. And again, on my Twitter page, you'll see a video I took from January of 2022 when Omicron was the big, oh my God, Omicron, January 2022. And I'm inside the gift shop in the main lobby, and you could hear them vacuuming down the hallway. It was a Wednesday afternoon. There was no surges, outbreaks, cases, chaos like they were describing at my county. It was another one of my, what is going on here, Butte County? What are you doing? You're fear-mongering. And at that next county meeting, I literally said to them, what you're saying here is not what's happening inside the hospital. I work there. How about you have your next meeting in the lobby, and you show me where these cases and outbreaks and surges are, because I'm not seeing them. With all due
Julie,
respect.
they must have loved.
Oh,
they must have loved you.
Well, the next week, that next week,
you have such reasonable ideas, because they were just lying, and there you
totally
come
100%.
and have these.
I mean,
Okay.
Again, like the very first person to die of COVID in Butte County, there was a huge press release, right? This huge, and of course they had to add this person. They didn't put their name, but they said this person, 28 years old, was unvaccinated. I went off my mind, because I'm like, because we're small enough to know who that person was, and now you just outed them as being unvaccinated. And why did you have to put that in the press release? So like the next meeting, I'm like, because we had heard about a person dying at Enloe right after their vaccine. So at the county, I'm like, is it true that there was an employee at Enloe that died after the vaccine? Oh my gosh, the public health officer came at me. She's like, we would never release that type of information. I go, you released it about the unvaccinated that died of the virus. Why aren't you releasing it when the vaccinated dies of the vaccine? I mean, I don't get it. So, yeah.
Yeah, to come back to this whole circus, I mean, you have been mentioning the fear-mongering, the flat-out lying, how overwhelmed they were in the hospital when you couldn't see nothing was going on, was totally calm. That's all necessary if you stage a pandemic, because you have to whip up the panic and the fear. If there is a real emergency, then of course you try as a public official to calm people down and to make sure that things don't get out of control and people don't become too panicked. But now, of course, everything is a pandemic. So it is the word. I don't know how many people know this. I hope a lot, because pandemic doesn't mean a damn thing, and it hasn't since 2009. I think it was. It's very. I'm sure you know this, but they changed the WHO, I think, changed the definition of the word pandemic, so that it no longer meant that it was a mass, disease all over the world that affected, that not only just, got people sick, but was deadly, extremely deadly and extremely harmful. That was taken away from the definition. So now it just means that, if there's some sort of, let's say, cold,
I did not know that, but I'm not surprised. I mean, they changed the definition of vaccine, right?
So having pandemic doesn't mean anything. It's nothing to fear. There's some cold virus going around the entire world. If that should ever be the case, who cares? Because, it's nothing to fear. But they did that. The timing is so interesting, because they changed the definition right before the what was it? The bird flu pandemic in 2000. When was that? In 2010,
yeah,
I believe 2009, 2010. So they changed the definition in 2010. Was followed quickly after. They had this attempt of some worldwide pandemic for the bird flu, which didn't succeed, but they tried.
Yeah. So I thought, since we're on the hospital, I thought I'd show. This was one of the other jobs that I had during this virus. This is the testing pavilion. So if you were unvaccinated at Enloe, and they wouldn't allow this for the volunteers had to be vaccinated and boosted. We had no, we have no rights. So, I mean, we had no exemptions or nothing that we could handle, but the staff were allowed to give a medical exemption. I don't know if they really, how they manage that whole process, but if they were unvaccinated, once a week, they had to come downstairs to the basement and come to the testing pavilion. And it was, to me, again, one of these kind of social, really horrific kind of things that I witnessed and processed after the fact. But so what you're seeing here is, if you were unvaccinated before you started your shift for that week, you came downstairs to the basement and you'd walk in and you would take the Abbott Labs, test. So this Abbott Labs here test is what we used. So, but it was controlled by an app on the employee's phone. And so they would come in and I would, work at the check-in desks, let's say. They would show me there was QR codes. So I would scan that and I would know, okay, this is whoever, XYZ person. They would get the swab from me and they'd swab their nose and they'd give it to me. I'd put it in this little, you can see the chart here for the Abbott Labs test, put it here and then set the timer for 15 minutes. They'd go off their way, they'd leave. And so as, then over here, we would get this person's, it's sitting on these little paper trays. This is one person, there's however many are on this table, their test. The minute that the timer went off, I would go over and I would scan it on this tablet here, and it would show if it was positive or negative. The employee would get an email or a text, and their boss would saying, "Okay, negative, go to work," or positive, go home. And two things were very fascinating to me. Number one, the way the unvaccinated were treated was, again, for me, eye-opening, because this hospital, you can search Enloe's, well-regarded awards for employee, satisfaction and treatment, and Plaintree, the patients are always set, first on anyway. And I'm like, they were treated so rough. And even where the person assigned from the staff to, manage that day, they were talking so poorly of these poor unvaccinated. They're like, we shouldn't be having to do this. These people are causing us to spend all this extra money and all this extra time. And I'm looking at this man in a white coat, supposed to be this well-regarded doctor. And I'm like, sir, that's kind of inappropriate. Why are you talking about people that way, right? Whatever. I really didn't care about your status. I thought it was full choice. I'm like, I don't really care. What are you doing talking about our fellow employees that way? That's against our morals as a hospital. I was trained not to treat other people that way. So it was horrifying. But then number two was the whole process of, taking people. This was what was in the hazmat, garbage can, the shift I worked. I kept going, where do all these go? All these swabs of DNA samples from all of the workers, then you get it. Where did all these go? That's a lot of hazmat waste. I just was like so fascinated by, and again, not knowing until way later, these were probably on their way somewhere. I don't know, to get people's DNA collected, but this was just one shift. Every unvaccinated staff member was once a week having to swab their nose. I don't know how long that lasted, because by January of 2022, I was getting told I had to get a booster, and I was telling them, no, thank you. And I had to leave. I was fired.
So,
I feel like I was fired for this, but anyway.
So you said that the volunteers had no choice.
Correct.
You weren't able to get a medical exemption or any kind of
I couldn't go through this process. Yep. I couldn't go through this.
Right. You had to get the shots. Yes. Or you couldn't be a volunteer.
Correct.
Very simple.
Yep.
For the staff, for the employed people, it was different. They had a choice. They could get a medical exemption or maybe a religious exemption as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would have to go through the testing process. And if they were not positive, then they could work.
Correct.
So when you found out about this, how did that strike you? That is so fundamentally unjust and despicable. In Aldous Huxley world, you are kind of designated as some sort of a delta or something, right?
Yeah.
One of the lower tiers of the population that doesn't get that choice that other people have. What is going on with that?
Yeah, I was devastated. So again, my awakening really happened from about August of 2021. I heard, so really quick, the other two side effects that I saw firsthand in the clinics were the menstrual disruptions, and I had a kid have a seizure. So the menstrual disruptions really started to bother me because, those tables where I worked, Let me see if I can pull up the picture really quick again. Here we go. So I'd go to work every day and so there was, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 8 nurses. So I would sit here in the middle of these 2 tables and I would set everything up at the beginning with the little collectors for the syringes and make sure that this was all tidy. And then as people were coming through the lines, they would come to sit down at my table. So we had this was the whole warehouse and we'd have people coming in for their appointment. This would be full. So when we opened the doors, people would come in through the doors, check in, and then they'd stand here where a person, do you have your forms? And then we called this a Disneyland line. We wanted to make it very comfortable and they'd get here to the front and and I would be at the table going, okay, I've got a chair open, and they'd send the person over. And there'd be a traffic cop kind of thing to get people to my table. So I worked over here in this corner with up to 8 at a shift of the nursing students from Butte Community College, young kids. I loved that energy and they, loved being around them during these shifts and in the break room. And these women, and they were young girls.
Had they vaccinated? So these student nurses, had they any experience vaccinating people?
A lot of them did, because Butte Community College, which is the junior college, we have 2 college nursing programs here in Chico. We have one that's Butte College, Community College, and one that's Chico State. Very different vibe. The Chico State nursing students, a little more prim and proper. The ones that are going to the community college have usually had a lot of work experience, or they were moms or whatever. But it's a really good program. So we had the Butte College. So a lot of them were from different flavors, or they were working EMT, whatever. So some of them had been very used to giving shots. But I tell you, there were some that had never given one at all. And I'm like, and part of my job as kind of their mom almost at this point, was to alert the manager. Like I would have a person not giving the shot right and blood spewing, and I'm cleaning it up. I'm like, excuse me, we need to have somebody trained.
Wow.
Over here. So it, the whole aspiration of the needle, that whole thing. So yeah, there were things. So there were problems, 200 shots an hour, and you see all these chairs filled with people and you're like, okay, next, move along kind of thing. So the menstrual disruptions.
So you're telling me, so you're telling me that there were student nurses that had never been given a vaccine before they came to these mass vaccination clinics? And they did they
have them, inject an orange behind, in that morning? I don't know, but I tell you, there was a couple that I'm like, have you been given shots before? Maybe you shouldn't be here, kind of thing.
So when you asked them, what did they say?
It was just pretty much like, that is a minor detail in this grand, we have to get people vaccinated at all costs. So a few rookie, not well-trained nursing students, or I don't know, maybe there was a very senior retired, maybe they're too old to be working at these clinics too kind of people. I don't know. They were all volunteers. So now
is that how the supervising nurses reacted when you?
No, they took it. They took it very seriously. So they took it very seriously, and that's why they felt comfortable with me, because I would point it out. I'm not going to let this stuff slide. Maybe others would, but I'm like, no, this is wrong. So they would definitely address the issue, or if there was a broken needle, or if I'd be the one to go get people help over here kind of thing. So I wanted those students to trust me enough to go, I'm doing this for your best interest, as well as obviously the people, the patients. But at this point, I'm thinking it's a safe and effective, whatever, they're bleeding, go give them another shot. I didn't think anything of it, really, at the time.
Oh my God. So wait. So this person that started bleeding, had this person been injected with it?
At this point, I think the needle went in and it went into the vein, right? It didn't go into the muscle. They didn't put it in the right spot.
Must have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but that's terrible if the stuff goes right into the bloodstream.
Yeah.
It's not supposed. It's. Oh my God.
Yeah.
How many of these trays did you have on your table at any time?
So
Was it
again,
just one?
Yeah. Well, so there's 1, 2. So there's 8. So you've got four patients here. So each there's 1, 2, or in this case, so it's 2 down here, 2 down here. So there was up to 8. Depending on how many people we had coming in for that. If it was a lighter shift, there might be just 4 or 6. But and so the thing with these menstrual disruptions.
So you would have one? Would you have just one tray, or how many trays would you have? 8?
So you can kind of see here in the middle. So you saw those trays coming out of the draw room with 10 syringes on there, right?
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
as those the nurse manager would bring out that tray. I kept saying, oh, look at, they're coming out of the kitchen again with the tray of cookies. That's what it felt like, because these plastic trays are coming out, and they'd lay one down at my table. So I'd get this plastic tray with 10 syringes on it, and I would make 10 of those plastic trays. So I'd break it 1, 2, 3, put them into 10 trays with a gauze, with an alcohol swab, with the Band-Aid ready to go, like peeled off, ready to go. And so as then a person sat down, I would just hand that tray to the nurse. So she didn't have to do much, but, wipe the alcohol swab, ask the person name, who are you, whatever, get their information. Are you ready for your shot? Okay. And then the syringe is ready to go. I had put it into the tray, put the shot, they'd put it in this red bucket, right? The hazmat bucket. And then they'd
Mm-hmm.
put the Band-Aid on. Are you doing okay? And then make sure that they then went on to the waiting area to wait for 15 minutes. But this is where I was
Right.
sitting literally
So you must have looked at a lot. You handled a lot of these syringes that had been filled in the drawing room. And did you see syringes that had that were not entirely clear, where the liquid was not entirely clear?
I mean, I think I saw everything. I mean, there was I'd see one that I'm like, I don't think this is filled all the way. Like, so then I would call the nurse manager. I think this one needs not filled all the way to the whatever it needed to be. It looked like that wasn't as often. More often we'd have syringe failures, so needle break right before so I'm like, oh, this needle's broken before that it can get injected. So then I'd have to call the manager to come over, because you had to account for that dose, very precise, right? I couldn't just throw it into the bucket. I mean, they had to say, oh, they would discard that one in the back room, kind of thing, for failure. But there were times too when I don't think the syringes were the highest quality, because you got to think all these I mean, there were times when I'm like, I don't like these needles. In fact, I mentioned it. They looked to me like cheap. Like, I'm like, I literally think I made a joke. Where did we get these needles? At China? I mean, these look cheaper. I mean, I don't.
Probably. They probably did come from China.
So I had this
like almost everything else.
When you have 100-year-old lady, a little tiny 100-year-old lady who barely has enough, I don't even think she had any fat or muscle on her, just skin like a little bird. And I'm like, I looked at I go, are you sure you can inject? She's this little frail. I'm like, I'm not giving her this cheap needle. It looks like, to me, it's like, got a little, needles are supposed to be smooth at the end. These ones look like they were like, could cut you if they, I was like, where's those do we have good needles today? I think at one point I asked, do we have the good needles today? So yeah.
Also, they shouldn't break. I mean, a needle, how often do they break?
I don't know. I mean, it wasn't a lot, but it was enough where I think, again, you're like, wow, okay, this is happening. But
what about the liquid itself? How did it look? Did you see any kind of cloudiness, or
I don't know if I mean, it wasn't. They weren't clear. It wasn't a clear, like, when you see a vial of vaccine like today for MMR, whatever, it looks like it's like almost watery, right? These ones were thick, right? So it was more viscous. But I never saw one that was brown or yellow or nothing that absurd. But what I want to point out, so this clinic here, so this was April, and again in Chico, it's our temperatures. We get really hot in the summer and pretty cold in the winter, but we're here in this warehouse, which it was pretty chilly, because it's not like you're inside of a nice building. But this up here next to me were these windows, and can you see how they've had to now cover them? Because one day,
yes,
so they didn't have this this wasn't part of the warehouse. So these windows were here, and they would, when the sun would come through, they would stream down like right about here on my table. And one day the nurse manager brought out my tray, and she put it down here on the table. And at one point she came back, she's like, get that tray out of the sun. And I'm like, I'm thinking, it's like freezing in here. What are we? But they were so worried because the sun itself beating down on these syringes would apparently potentially warm them up too much and heat them up. So they then had to cover said windows to make sure that didn't happen. And this is where, again, I'm like, oh, wow, this is not your normal, like, just going into CVS and everybody's just getting shots. This is like very different. So, I mean, I'm curious. I watch everything. I'm like, wow, this is fascinating. Okay.
Right. Well, taking a sun bath, these syringes taking a sun bath probably was the best thing they could have done.
Now you know.
And then they covered up the window. Too bad. Too bad. Yeah. I didn't know.
So this menstrual disruptions really bothered me because I was hearing it a lot, right? And they were talking.
When did you hear first about that?
Oh, pretty early on. I mean, because these young nurses had just had their second shots. And so they were, they'd come in, they're like, hey, how was your weekend?
Right.
How's this? What's going on? All of a sudden I started my period and I'm on birth control. I haven't had a period in 2 years and now I'm having one. And there was just wasn't anything. They were just chit chatting and I was hearing all of them. So they weren't collectively noticing, but I was hearing all of them. And then occasionally
when was that? Like February 2021?
March, April.
March 2020?
March, April, I really started to pay attention. And
so they got their shots, all these people got their shots in January 2021.
Yeah.
Right before the mass vaccination started. Okay.
So,
and you started hearing them talking about this in, you think maybe March?
Yeah, it was March. I really started to really kind of, hear these, because again, I was paying more, and I was getting to know them, I was getting to know them personally, and how are you? How's the kids? What? And, because a lot of them were moms. But I also would hear, so then when patients, young women would come back for their second shot and they would sit down in these chairs, the nurse would ask them, how did you do after your first shot? And so some of them were like, well, I wasn't having my period and now I am. I mean, that was an occasional thing. And again, number 3, I have a daughter who's their age that's working at the Mass. So I'm like, oh, I need to ask. So I went to one lunch break, Dr. Andy Miller. I'm going to out him. He was the director of public health. And so he was in the break room and I said, sir, I'm hearing these menstrual disruptions. I'd like to know, I have a daughter. I kind of really want to make sure this product isn't impacting people's menstrual cycles, is it? Oh, he immediately dismissed me almost mockingly, like, oh, no, come on. I'm like, okay. And belittled me and I go back to your job kind of thing. And so,
so he was, what exactly was his role?
He was the chief medical officer for the county.
Oh,
Dr. Andy Miller.
He's the chief medical officer for the entire county. Oh, so you told him. When did you tell him?
Literally that March or April timeframe at one lunch break.
So really, did you get the impression that he heard that for the first time from you?
I pretty much got the impression that, Julie, you're not a medical professional. You don't know no, this is, just the mocking nature of these medical professionals to dismiss you. That was my first experience with that. Not like, oh, you are? Like who? Let me go talk to them. Somebody would have come up to me. I'd be like, no, let me go. Who's having the menstrual problems? Let me go talk to them. I'm like, yeah, oh no, just I got the whole dismissive, basically sit up and shut down, go back to your job. And so when I state that story because when I'm then watching The War Room in August of 2021 and I hear Naomi Wolf talk about menstrual disruptions from Pfizer and how Pfizer was hiding it, oh, it hit me like a ton of bricks. That was my first upside the head. What? Like those menstrual disruptions that I alerted my county medical officer to, and he's now hiding it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a whole big old conspiracy. And that was my first, definitely I need to go start doing research. And I that August of 2021, I spent the next 3 months investigating everything about these vaccines. And I started,
because it's a weird reaction when you think about it. You are the chief county
medical officer.
Mm-hmm. The chief county medical officer. Okay. So that's a position that comes with a lot of responsibility. And so you are in this extreme situation where everybody's being vaccinated with an unapproved product that is emergency authorized. Who knows if the guy even knew that? And if he knew, then he probably had no idea what it meant. So you are this officer and somebody comes to you, somebody who really, like you, who is talking to dozens and dozens of these young nurses and has her own daughter, etc. So you, first of all, you have to be taken seriously. Because he is not in touch with all these nurses who are giving the shots and who got the shots themselves. He doesn't see the patients.
Well, I will stop you there. He was giving shots too. So he was at one of these tables every day.
Oh, he was?
I guarantee you he heard it.
Oh, I see. No, because I'm thinking the normal reaction would be to say, well, wait a minute, what? Because you get vaccinated, and then you have all these people talking about how their period is being disrupted.
Yeah,
That is weird.
yeah,
I
Cornelia, let me
mean, that
just
is not something that I had heard
no.
about.
I mean,
Mhm.
what it got really it got really bad in April. It might have been May. So Chico State University, again, big university here in Chico. They were mandating the shots to go to school and to run track. So this, well, to do anything at the college. So one day the Chico State track team came in for their shots, and I was literally working at this table here, and this kid comes in and sits right here, beautiful, healthy male. I mean, just this amazing, I'm like, okay, this Chico State needs a shot. I didn't even think about it. But as the nurse is injecting him in his arm and I now know it's poisons going into his body, he immediately has a seizure. He is full on having a seizure. He's falling into her, like right here. So see, it's all cement. So he falls into her. So she's able to make sure he doesn't fall and hit his head, pass out. But he's down here, literally on this floor right here, having a full on seizure. So now I'm running and screaming for Dr. Miller. Dr. Miller, emergency over here. There's a seizure on the floor. There are people at every one of these tables getting their shots. We're in the corner. But so here comes Dr. Miller. Julie, go get my bag. And other nurses come over to help. And my job was to make sure that as people are still getting their shots, they were walking over here and not walking this way. They were walking over here to go to the waiting area. And meantime, I've got one eye on the kid on the floor and one eye making sure that everybody else is getting their vaccine. And I'm like, what is happening here? Dr. Miller was there helping that kid. Now they give him, you have a seizure for whatever, it lasts a minute and you come to. So then they get him sitting up and no ambulances and the whole place doesn't stop, nothing, no high alert. And he leaves. They ended up taking him back there was a separate room with gurneys set up for people that I think felt faint or needed a little more privacy because they were nervous. There was a back room for that. And that's where I think he went. I don't know. To this, again, you're in the moment. And then later you're processing going, God, and so I called my daughter. I said, Hannah, I just had a kid. Because at night when I'd get home, I'd call Hannah. My daughter is doing the same thing I'm doing at the Alameda County Fairgrounds. So at night I would go home and I'd like, Hannah, okay, so this is what happened today. A kid on floor with seizure. I said, Hannah, you guys are doing your shots drive-through. They didn't have a building like this. They were driving people through big tents. I should have put those pictures up. Big tents. Can you imagine you're driving and you're having a seizure? I go, Hannah, how do you know they're having a seizure? She's like, Mom, they told me that's just a vasovagal reaction. I go, they're telling you that's normal. Sorry, but I'm not saying that is normal, but okay. So, again, point in time but that's Dr. Miller. So did Dr. Miller file a VAERS report? I don't know, Cornelia, because guess what? In California, we did not tell people about VAERS. We had an app called vSafe, but nobody said if you get injured, go file a vSafe report or, we'll file one for you. Or nobody talked about injuries. There was no such thing as adverse events talked about, given to people, nothing. So I don't know. I mean, I have spent 47 appearances, like I said, at the county asking these questions. Did Dr. Miller file a report? I saw a Chico State track athlete. I heard menstrual disruptions, and I've been there for 4 years, and these people do nothing. Don't blink an eye.
So
nothing.
So VAERS wasn't mentioned, but you had the vSafe app. So did you tell the people who got injected about vSafe?
No,
the vSafe app.
When they gave they gave us a flyer. It said vSafe. If and it was an app you put on your phone, and you were supposed to use it to track your next appointment, right? Like so, it would remind you 3 weeks. And if you had questions, you could go to the app. Well, first of all, I don't need the app. I'm working at the clinic. Second of all, I'm not expecting to. I know when my appointment is because I'm working at the clinic. So I didn't even think I needed it. I'm throwing the little paper away, right? So nobody said, well, this is to track your injuries. And now we know from Albert Benavides. So there was like 1 million reports stuck in vSafe, a lot of deaths that were never even moved over to VAERS until I think recently. Because of work like Albert.
So they got a flyer. So they got a flyer when they went to get their injections that told them about vSafe and that they could
and it was
get
more.
the app
It was advertised more of like an app to track your appointment. And if you went home and had a headache, you could call somebody or look it up. So I'm like, they didn't say this is for the adverse reporting system. And there's, did you know there's 1.6 million reports already? I mean, no, there was nothing like that. It was more like, hey, here's a fun app, put on your phone. And so you can be reminded and you don't miss your 3 weeks, because you need to come back for your second shot in 3 weeks, not 4, not 5, not 2, but 3. That's a very precise number. You better come back in 3 weeks. That whole thing.
Do you know what happened to this young man who had the seizure?
I think about it to this day. He could be dead, right? These young men with their heart issues could be dead. I don't know. Nobody will, I mean, there better be a VAERS report filed.
So how often did that happen? That somebody
that full-on seizure in front of me, that was a once in a 36 clinic thing. There were fainters. There were people as they were walking, like after they would get up here and they were walking to the I got the pic. The tables were over here when they were walking down here to this waiting area. So after they get their shot, there were 2 stations here for you to get we gave people a little like plastic holder for your vaccine card. It said Enloe on it, and you got a sticker, I'm vaccinated. And so you stopped here, and then they would show you to a chair where you could, wait for 15 minutes or 30 if you've had a reaction before. If we'd give you water, snacks or whatever. There were people that were volunteering down there. They love that part of their job, right? I'm definitely clinical. I want to be over here with the vaccines, but they were over here making sure people were okay before they walked out this back door. And so there were people who, a lot of time somebody's walking right here and my table's right here, they'd collapse. I'm like, okay, then we go get them right off the floor. Hello, help, we need. And then the mom, like one kid, the mom's like, oh, I think that they're nervous about their shot. Kind of more of those things. But this full-on seizure was like, wow, okay, that happened. And somebody should, and then people would, I think it was Raynette Senham goes, were people, did everybody stop? Like, did everybody go, oh my God, I better not get this shot? Oh my God. Nobody did that. Everybody kept getting their shots. Nobody left. Nobody turned around and went, no, we're out of here. That's crazy.
Well, they must have at least looked, right? What was happening?
Yeah, I mean, people were like, there's a kid on the floor. Why? Oh, did he just faint? Did he fall? Whatever. He's a kid. And I even had one person go, wow, he probably was scared of I go, you know what? I was there. This was a healthy young man. He had not a fear in his body. I tell you what happened. This poison that we now know to be a toxic bioweapon product, this kid immune system was so ultra uber healthy. The minute that poison hit his arm, his body, his bloodstream, whatever, his body was rejecting it from the get-go. And his body was like, no, I'm being poisoned. And he was on the floor. That's what I saw. That's what happened.
And there was not a single person in that big hall there that got up and said no.
No, I mean, they had to. No, I sure didn't see a mass exodus. That's for sure. People were like, no, I got to get my vaccine. Well, half of them were mandated, right? This college, the jobs, the family pressure, the stories I have here. I mean, again, we had a lady who, she was celebrating her 105th birthday. We were singing to her happy birthday. I'm like, why is the lady that's 105? The little old lady that I talked about that, was really super, super thin, and she was 100 years old. She was there with like 3 generations, maybe 4, of family, and they were kind of crying. And I'm like, oh my God, is she hurt? I'm like, taking a needle into, I'm like, is she hurt? Is she hurt? No, it was like happy tears, because she and her husband had been separated, right, as they were separating seniors in these homes. And then he had died alone. So she was so happy to finally be out of the senior facility, because she'd been locked in, so happy to be out and so happy to be getting the shot, that she was like happy tears. And I'm like, and there's the daughter and the granddaughter and the great granddaughter. I'm like, wow, okay. I don't know, seeing that. Well, fine. Okay. The pregnant woman.
Yeah.
I had a full on 8-month full belly. And I literally looked at her and I said, are you sure? And without knowing anything, I just went, because she was so obviously pregnant. Getting ready. Right. I go, are you sure? And the nurse looks at me and I'm like, are you going to, I was told not to drink a cup of wine and a cup of coffee. we didn't get any shots when I was pregnant. I mean, you're okay. I was just,
Yeah.
that was my reaction. And again, I was kind of like
Mm-hmm.
looked at like, don't ask, don't say anything. Shh, be quiet. Really? She's
Mm-hmm.
pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's right, but okay.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It shows you what that whole extreme situation did to people. I mean, the terrible lockdowns, people being threatened with losing their jobs, not being able to go to college. The only hope of resuming normal life was by going through the shot. That was, you had to, on the other side of the shot was the promise of a return to normal. And
100%.
that was so insidious and that was so evil to
Save
do that
grandma.
to people. And then, right? And then, I mean, people were really also, of course, all the propaganda about safe and effective and how dangerous it really is. I guess at least some people believe that.
Yeah.
But once you have made the decision that you need to get the shot in order to return to normal, once you make that decision to do it, then I think it is very difficult to convince people otherwise, even if they witness something like that. Or it also takes a while to sink in. It's not like people will react within 10 seconds or 15 seconds or a minute, which you would have had to do if you were already sitting down to get your shot.
Yeah.
It takes much, much longer to sink in and to think through the whole thing.
Yeah,
So
well,
I'm not
and
really
we were
surprised
proud of
that
ourselves. I mean, this was
it,
in this warehouse. You can imagine. I was seeing, and I literally told my daughter this. I'm like watching humanity all get together and help each other. So in this building, I would see the liberals with the pink hair, college students, homeless, businessmen with their three-piece suits coming in after the lunch break, moms with the kids, the different generations. You know, I was like, at one point I said, I'm seeing all of Chico come together in this one building. Didn't matter your politics, didn't matter your age, didn't matter your station in life. We were all getting together, and wow, what a community we are to do this. No, I mean, I tell you, the PTSD, Cornelia, you know, if I wasn't, I mean, I
yeah.
witnessed 43,000 people get shot with poison. I mean, it's very troubling.
How many? 43,000?
43,000 if I do my math, the 200 shots an hour, 36
Wow.
it's horrifying. It weighs heavy on my heart. But it fuels me,
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah, and but while you were doing that, you thought you were doing the right thing. You were doing something important and necessary and good. And not only that, it unites everyone. Here we are all united, and it leads to peace. Peace on earth.
We were
Peace.
Rosie the Riveter. They literally were calling us Rosie the Riveters. You know, it's a war effort, you know. I'm like, give me, and now I know, and now I'm mad.
Yeah.
I've been lied to. So yeah.
So I think we have to finish pretty soon, but I have another question for your whiteboard.
Yeah.
So can you pull up the whiteboard one
Sure.
more time?
See,
Because we talked about the badges. Yeah, I'm really intrigued by this whiteboard.
Well,
So
what intrigued me too was well, for me, it was the batch number, because I knew, and this is why I did the FOIA request when I got Albert's help, because it helps me have evidence. So what I also got, so because of me collecting this information and the knowledge, so, you know, they did the Pfizer top 10 hot lots. So Albert Benavides did a Substack on the top 10 Pfizer hot lots. Oh, so you give me a list of 10 hot lots. I can look them up and see how many were given in Butte County by the dose. And so again, I'm like, oh, this ought to convince the sheriff, right?
Wow.
So
Awesome.
of those top 10 lots, hot lots that ICANN or Aaron Siri or Albert wrote this. So the top 10 lots in Butte County, we gave 14,305 shots of the doses. There's 14,305 people in Chico, Butte County, that were given a top 10 Pfizer hot lot. And I'm like, so I bring this, I do a whole spreadsheet. Albert's got the, what he calls the toxicity level. And I'm like, did you know that the top EK4176, the top most toxic lot out of Pfizer, we gave 362 doses to, and you know who those are? You know the names and home addresses of those 362. Why don't you go call them? Why don't you go call all the people and send out a survey and say, how are you doing? We worry about you. I mean, no.
So, yes, very, very. So, do you have this file as a digital file?
Yeah.
With the batch numbers?
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's a huge number that of this toxic lot.
Yep.
You said 14,000, right?
14,305
injected in a relatively small county of 200,000 people. So that's a huge number. Have you ever looked at CDC's Wonder database and looked at Butte County and the death rates after the administration of this toxic lot?
I don't know if I've looked at Wonder. I did, again, do a FOIA request and got all of our deaths from the coroner, who's our sheriff, right? I got an Excel file. I said, I want all the deaths, but, and I want this information off their death certificates I took like a December 2020 through whatever period of time I asked for it. And they gave me a file, but it just had like date of death and a code, like, was it natural? It's whatever codes they have the coroner uses. Natural, suicide, I think there was accident, something like that. And so it wasn't, and I didn't notice a big uptick. So there wasn't like this So like I was expecting that in 2021, Butte County would have this, or 2022, a huge increase in deaths. But guess what? We're only 54% vaccinated. So we didn't see a big shift and change in our death numbers because there wasn't that many people. I bet you in Santa Clara County.
Okay, well then then you can adjust it to the number, to the percentage of people that were vaccinated.
Maybe.
But that would be something. I can look that up for you on the CDC Wonder database. Would be interesting. So the question I have for the whiteboard is this: they have the lot number there. Okay, why do you have any information why it is that they put the batch numbers or lot numbers on every single vaccine card for every single dose? Why did they do that?
You mean like in terms of the manufacturer or the
well, you got on the vaccine card you would get the date. Yes, for the victim. So because it was on your card, not just that you got the shot and where you got the shot and the nurse or somebody signed it, but you got the batch number. I mean, I've been vaccinated in my life and I never got, I mean, I have no idea what the batch numbers are. I didn't even know there are batches and all this stuff. Yeah. So why were the batch numbers put on the cards?
That's a really good point. I don't know. I mean, I have to assume that even if you get the flu shot or whatever, it's in your, record, like at CV, I'm sure if you got a printout, you just don't get it on a card because you really you don't care, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure that's true. But they put it on the card. Why did they put it on the card? Because that was a foolish thing to do from their perspective or not? Because I mean, you don't want that damn batch number on the card. You don't want people to know which batch they got.
I don't know. Those cards were printed by the CDC. We all have the same ones. They're CDC cards. They're not like Butte County. They're not California. They are a CDC vaccine card.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
It is bizarre.
It's bizarre. Yeah. I mean, I'm very happy that they did put it on there because it makes it so much easier.
It does when you start to look up. I was going to see if I could find my mom's.
Exactly.
If I could.
Otherwise, if that weren't the case, we wouldn't even know. It would be very hard to otherwise prove that there are more toxic batches.
And so I had my mom's batch card. I had her vaccine card. Let me see if I can find it down here. So there's my mom. So this is her vaccine card. So because I was researching these batch numbers, right? I'm like, I know this is part of the puzzle. So I asked all my family, can I have your vaccine card? My kids are like, no, you're going to start harassing me, whatever. And, but my mom, oh, sure, honey, whatever you need to do, you're doing research. So she texted me her vaccine card. Cornelia, and I didn't talk to my mom about what was going on. I mean, she's doing her life. She's living her dream life. We didn't talk politics at all. We talked baseball. We talked my kids. How's Sunnyvale? How's the family, this, that, and the other. Are you going on vacation? She's traveled everywhere. So when she sent me this text, I hit the floor. I screamed, I yelled, I cried because I didn't know she had 4 shots. I knew she got the booster, this third one, but I did not know she took one on April 26th. I did not know. So now I'm like, my world, I'm like, oh my God, Mom. So I start, so now I had this available when she dies suddenly. I send it to the coroner. It's a murder. It's a crime. Here's the criminal record of what the poison was. And she died suddenly, meaning She had no heart issues, no cancer, no autoimmune, no nothing wrong with her. She woke up at 6 a.m. on vacation, and by 8 a.m. she was dead. Her heart had stopped. I think it was one
Which
of those
day did she
clocks.
die?
August
So
15th,
that she got
yeah. So she got this last
August
one.
15th.
Yeah, April
So 4
26th
months.
and August 15th. So Steve Kirsch had done his whole analysis, and these dyes are within 5 months of their last shot. And yes, she was. Palo Alto Medical Foundation.
Yeah.
So I had all these batch numbers, and you can see the CDC card. I don't know why they made it this way.
So it says on there, yes, it says lot number, product, name, manufacturer, lot number. So they all obediently put down the lot number because it said it on the card.
Yeah, we actually had them printed out. On mine, they're little like stickers, but yeah, and the date and who did it.
So if they hadn't printed lot number into that field, then there would not be a single lot number on any of these cards.
Well, what's interesting is, so first of all, when you see your vaccine card, you're like, I thought we were only supposed to get this one time. Like we're supposed to just get it once, like, and last forever. Oh, you plan on us having more? Why does the CDC give us? And then over here, you can see where it just says vaccine. So it's COVID-19, COVID-19. Well, what are they expecting? So you're going to carry these cards for flu? You get your flu shot. You keep, I mean, I don't know. I don't know these criminals, but yeah, this vaccine card.
Yeah, I'm sure they have learned from it. They'll never use
lot number again.
a primitive piece of cardboard or paper, or thick paper again.
Yeah,
that is very easy to falsify. So before we finish, there's one important question I have for you. So when you work there in these clinics, I imagine that you had some sort of introduction to the whole situation and what you were supposed to be doing there, and some sort of training. And I would like to know if during that training, whether you were told that these shots were covered by the PrEP Act's liability shield, and also whether there was any discussion about what it means that these shots were under emergency use authorization.
No, not at all. Not one word. I mean, it was, again, when you've been at this Enloe Medical Center, this world-regarded, award-winning, Plane Tree certified hospital, and your CEO, all of the board of directors, your management, all of them are telling you this is a safe and effective product, and this is what we need to get back to normal at this hospital. And you've got your county public health officer, your county public health director, the medical officer, the supervisors, all of them getting their shots. When you have your sheriff doing a television ad saying he got his vaccine, and, while it's everybody's free to choose, he got it. You kind of don't even think that that's something you should be asking. And no, they did not say, oh, if something happens to you, you can't sue them. I didn't even know any of this. None of it. Zero. Nothing.
Right. And so that would have been true then for everyone who was working at these mass vaccination clinics, maybe with the exception of this chief medical officer, Andy Miller.
Yeah, and he's teaching now at Chico State. I would love, I sometimes fear what I might have to do if I see him on the street, downtown Chico at a farmer's market. What do I do if I run into that man? I don't know. I really hold him responsible.
Oh, I know what you should. I have a good idea how you can start off the conversation with him, Julie. You could say, oh, hi, Andy, or I don't know how to call him, Dr. Miller. I don't know. You can say, do you remember that time when I talked to you about these menstrual disruptions? When was that? Do you remember when that was?
Yeah.
Wasn't it like March 2020?
Yeah, I think he's
going to
run
see
for
what
the
he says.
Yeah, I every day I'm emailing. I have a group list on my email that I'm for my county elected officials. So the supervisors, the DA, the county council, the sheriff, my state assemblyman, state senator, congressman, and I include Dr. Miller, his email address at Chico State, on those emails. And every day they're getting emails on, here's the latest study that Nicholas Holscher just produced of SV40. And here's, Sasha Lachapova's study. And here I send every day they get a couple emails from me, this whole group, the sheriff, the DA, the county council, and Dr. Miller. So yeah, there's no plausible deniability. And they know I was injured. I told them, I showed them all my information. I sent them an email. I got injured. And I approached it. And this was, again, January 2022, when they came in and said, oh, you want to keep doing this wonderful job? You need a booster. And I went, no, thank you. I sent them all an email. I said, I didn't broach it like this is a bioweapon. And I just said, look, here's my 2 batch numbers. I had some severe reactions. Here's what they are. And besides the lesion on my brain, I have chronic tinnitus, which Pfizer admits is a thing. But, this ringing in my ear is a hell. And then I started to get my first detached retina in 2022. I said, I have these severe problems. Maybe you need to go recall and these 2 lot numbers, 042L20A and 023M20A. They're like tattooed in my brain. You need to go notify people because this was a bad batch. Let's just approach it like, again, you go to the grocery store and you've got some lettuce with E. coli. I don't know. Same process in my brains. Why aren't you doing it? In total crickets, ghosting. I think one of the nurse managers replied to me, I'm sorry you had that problem. And then my direct manager was like, well, I believe you. I mean, they gave me this, I believe you. But, sorry. I'm like, sorry. I'm showing you my brain scan.
Well, Julie, let's continue this this conversation another time because there's so much more that happened to you and that happened in Butte County that we haven't even touched on. And this was incredibly interesting for me because it's the first time that I talked to somebody who actually worked in one of these mass vaccination clinics that were being popped up all over the country back then in 2021.
Yeah.
And to get a peek behind the scenes. So thank you very, very much, and I'm looking forward to our next interview.
100%. And Cornelia, thank you so much. And for anybody listening, if you worked at one, I wasn't the only one. There are thousands, if not millions of us that worked inside these mass vaccination clinics. It's okay. You were bamboozled, you were lied to, and now you need to come clean and start, speaking out too and having conversations with other people and letting them know, because we need more whistleblowers that worked inside these clinics to come together and have a mass conversation about what they saw, what they witnessed. I know I'm not the only one. So I think Butte County, nobody wants to come forward in Butte County because you'll lose your life. Pretty much. You'll lose like I've told you, they've kicked me out of every Republican women's club. I'm persona non grata. So, okay, fine, I can handle it. I was built for this. And I think God put me here for this very purpose. I think he put me in, I don't regret what I did. And I think God put me in those clinics because somebody had to bear witness to what happened during this atrocity. And God knew that was me. I could handle it. I can shoulder it. But there's got to be others out there. So if you are a nurse, if you are a volunteer, if you are a doctor, my gosh, come speak out, speak up. We need you to, we need to band together and get us through this. So that would be my message at the end of this interview. Thank you very much for the opportunity.